Well, hello, Marina. Welcome to the Real Estate by Relationship podcast. I am so excited to have you here because you are a brand new friend and I'm already obsessed with you. So I want all the listeners to know about you. So tell us who you are, where you're from.
Totally.
Well,
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Like I was saying, I'm so stoked to be here. This is my very first podcast episode ever, like in history. So it's a little nerve-wracking, but it's exciting to just make the connection and really share stories because I think that's how we help each other.
Absolutely.
But a little bit about me, I think it's good to kind of set the scene of who I was before I become a realtor. So previous to the pandemic, I was a wedding planner for 10 years. I have a honey company. I have Tolentino Honey Co., which we run out of our family farm here on island. And then I also had a staging company, which was a furniture rental company for weddings. But then we started doing so good of styling that realtors were asking us on Instagram to stage their homes. So it evolved into a staging company. And then March 2020 hit and everything went to pause. Everyone's demanding refunds. I have brides crying every day. And it was just really this aha moment of, oh my gosh, I'm not going to see events for 2 to 3 years. What are we going to do? But meanwhile, I was still working with sellers. I was still staging homes. And so it was just kind of the natural progression to say, you know what, I've always fantasized about this real estate career. Why don't I just go like 2 feet in and see what happens? And simultaneously, I had just had a baby in January. So she was 2 months old.
Oh.
And we decided, like, this is the year. We're just going to go for it and see what happens. But yeah, to set the scene, I had 4 businesses when we started the real estate journey.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Now tell everyone where you are sitting right now, where you actually live, because that's, everyone wants to live where you live. Before you say where you live, you remember the game that you used to play? I'm doing it with my hands. Those of you listening can't see it, but what was that game where you like did the 4, you held your fingers in it? Yeah. And you put like where you wanted to live and where you landed on was like, and I always had Hawaii on mine, always. Okay, so tell everyone where you're at.
Yeah. So I'm located on the island of Oahu and I'm on the west side in Ewa Beach. So I was just saying earlier too, like we're not where the volcano is. It's a completely different island, but it's very fun to watch from afar. But yes, located here in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
And you've had quite a bit of success early on in these couple of years. So kind of give everyone an idea of what you've accomplished in these first 3 years.
Yeah. So first year, my expectation and what everybody told me was you're lucky to do 1. And so that was my bar. I was like, I'll just do 1. Well, I ended up doing 13 and kind of blew the goals out the water. And I was like, oh, this is fun. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
So I just made 2.5 years pretty much. And I've done 26 this year alone. So doubled my income in year 2. So I'm super stoked to see what comes in year 3 and just beyond. So
that's absolutely phenomenal. And let's face it, you're not in an area of the United States that exactly has a low price point. So
we're very fortunate. Yes.
Yeah. Real estate and on the islands is from visiting numerous times is very, has a high dollar, a lot of zeros.
Median price right now, I wonder, can you guess it?
No, I don't even want to.
1.15.
Wow.
For a single family. Yeah.
Wow. And what does that get you? 3-bedroom?
Yeah, that gets you like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath for like 1,200 square feet.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like
that's obviously for closer to Honolulu. If you go out to the burbs, it's a little cheaper, but
yeah,
we're talking.
You actually have suburbs in Hawaii. That sounds so funny to hear you say. You just don't think of the burbs in Hawaii.
I'm literally in one. It's a new development by DR Horton, and it's just
oh my goodness. Now, have you lived there your entire life?
No. So I'm originally from Washington State.
Okay.
Long story short, met my husband when he was in the Coast Guard and we were in Guam. But he's here. Guam. And so we've done our PCS journey and then decided to move back to his home. Yeah.
Love it. Oh, that's such a great story. Okay. So you've been super successful in these first couple of years. I guarantee everyone's like, Barb, get to the point. I want to know how she did this. So let's talk. I know we've already chatted about a couple of your kind of main sources of income. The first one I want to start out with, because it is the Real Estate by Relationship podcast, is this idea that we chatted back and forth about, that you're a super connector. Like you consider yourself a super connector. Talk about what that looks like and how that's helped you in your business.
Totally. And this is a great parallel to wedding planning too, right? So being a wedding planner, you are a connector, you are a networker, you're dealing with a whole variety of vendors and cast and crews. And then you've got the emotional brides and everything. So you're already juggling multiple people all the time. So it just kind of transitions into real estate the same way, but if somebody needs something, I better know as a community influencer how to connect that person. And so I kind of always have my ears perked and my eyes looking, like I'm always watching and scanning on social media. I'm never just like scrolling to scroll, like I have a mission. And anytime someone might post like, hey, I'm struggling with this, or hey, I'm planning an event, who has the best chairs? Like I'm gonna reach out and say, hey, you totally need to talk to this person. And then they give me a little shout out, and it's just that confirmation of, oh, Marina's trustworthy. She's reliable. She knows really good people. I need to have her in my circle.
Love that. And so in real estate, give us some examples of kind of things you're looking for and listening for out there. I mean, you mentioned earlier, like the best dog walker, the best, it's not just like the best doctor, the best hairstylist, kind of all the ones we always think about, but like, what is it from a real estate perspective?
Yeah. So a lot of the times it's the move up or the move down, right? People are expecting babies, or I don't know, funerals happen. Like,
oh gosh, yeah, right.
Like that loving and caring connection to say, hey, I know this is a really hard time, or I can see you're struggling. Have you thought about this person? Have you heard about this business that does this exact thing that you're struggling with? And then just offering it. And sometimes even with agent to agent, it's just sharing a link to a podcast to say, hey, dude, I saw that situation. Like, have you heard about this podcast that talks exactly about that situation?
Yeah.
Because I'm like a binger. I constantly am learning.
Yeah. So you're really just being a resource for people. Yes. It sounds like being a resource for people. You know, it's interesting. My good friend, Tommy Choi from Chicago, I just had him as a second guest on the podcast. So he came on just last week, but a long time ago at the beginning of the podcast, I had him on, and he has this concept of you have to have so many deposits in someone's account before you can make a withdrawal, right? Like you've got to have a positive deposit. And we all know as realtors, like we have to ask for business. If we're not asking for business, we're not going to get anything. But he always talks about you feel icky about asking, and you usually feel icky about asking is because you haven't made enough deposits into their account. And he talks about one way to make deposits is being a resource for people, even when they don't know they need you as a resource. Like, hey, I saw you talking about this on social media. Here's a great reference or referral or, you know, contact. I think that's absolutely brilliant. So how has this shown up in your business? Is this just building relationships and people are calling you for the real estate, or is it other people you're referring are calling you and saying, hey, you've helped me out so much, I want to help you out? How is this showing up?
Totally. I think people have been along the journey throughout all my different careers and businesses, which is also the power of a personal brand, which I know you and I are very passionate about, but it allows you to pivot and bring people along the ride. And you're not just constantly pitching and selling things, but you're actually letting them into your life. And so they've seen like, oh, Marina was a badass wedding planner. Like she's going to kill it in real estate, but it was my first year. So like, I don't blame people if they didn't trust me my first year, because I was learning and I didn't know what I was doing. But then I'm sharing the journey and the evolution of my business, along with helping people, supporting small businesses. And I think the snowball effect has started, where like the first year I got a couple of referrals, trickle here, trickle there. And now I'm getting complete strangers that have said, I've been watching you for a year. Now I'm ready. Let's do this. And they are literally like super fans, and they feel like they know my whole life, which is kind of creepy, but also flattering that they care.
Well, I don't even know the answer to this yet, but I'm pretty confident I'm going to be going down the right path. So I'm assuming if you have some super fans, and I'm assuming if they know everything about you and are paying attention, they're watching you through social media, correct?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
So talk to me how you're using social media.
Yeah. So I knew Instagram before the pandemic. That was my one go-to. I had Facebook, but didn't really engage with it. And then knew I needed to expand my network and kind of try and dabble in a couple of other marketing activities as a realtor. But I was studying everybody else in the industry, and just, you know, the bad ones, right? Where it's just listen, just sold, ego. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not doing that.
No one cares. Yeah.
So let me find a role model who's a mom, number one. And I found a couple, which was on my team. And I was like, ooh, they're doing it. It's great. And I just wanted to reflect that, where it was personal. And yes, I'm sharing my successes, but it's not all about me. It's more so, how can I teach and share value? And then people are naturally magnetic to that, right? And then really it's just constantly stories. Like that's fun for me. I can post them in a second, you know, it's just easy for me to engage throughout the day, but it doesn't need to be like obsessive. But then YouTube, of course, I added YouTube in 2021, and that was a whole new level of business and a different kind of customer. And so it's just been consistency over time.
Well, two things you said there. Number one, I always say anything done consistently over time works in real estate. It just depends on how much time, energy, and money it's going to take you, right? Everything works. And secondarily to that, you mentioned stories. Stories are my jam. They're my favorite thing ever. And the reason they're my favorite thing ever is because they create conversations. They're not my favorite thing because I like going on stories every day talking about what I'm eating and drinking. I like them because they start conversations. And I always say conversations lead to relationships. And obviously relationships lead to, you know, you build trust through relationships. And then that ultimately leads to referrals, which is what we all want. And so I tell realtors all the time, like the best way to really show who you are without being salesy, without being just these, random photos on Instagram or whatever, is to share stories, because it really can be like, you can share 10 or 15 stories throughout the day and it's not overdoing it. If you put 10 posts up on Instagram, it would be overdoing it. So I think stories are the best way.
Yeah. It humanizes you as an agent too, right? Because I've heard you say this a couple of times. I've been listening to your stuff. It's not about what you sell or what you do, but it's who you are, right?
1,000%. So. No one, we learned that, both of us met, transparently through Brand Builders Group, and Roy and AJ Vaden, the amazing owners of the company and thought leaders, they talk about all the time that people want to do business with humans. They want to do business with brands they can trust. And your brand is not the company you work for. Your brand is not real estate. Your brand is not a just listed postcard or a sign in a yard. That's not your brand. Your brand is who you are, right? Like I've always said my entire career that, and I'm a broker, I have a company, I have agents that do work for me. And I always say the agents should care about the brand they work for, because I am the person they trust. I am that brand, but their clients don't care about me. Their clients care about the agent who's sitting across from them at that kitchen table. That's who the clients care about. So good. Okay. You mentioned YouTube. Let's talk about YouTube, because you told me before we got on the amount of business you've closed off YouTube. I want you to tell everybody, because it's phenomenal. And then talk about how'd you get into it? Why'd you get into it? And what are you seeing as results?
Totally. Yeah. So year to date, closed 7 million in sales volume from YouTube alone, which is awesome. And every time it happens, it's like falling from the sky, and they're like the best raving fan. So it's an amazing call to get and an email to get. But I started it just because I was like a Gary Vee fan, and everyone's saying, get on video. And then no one's actually doing it. And so I was just kind of like,
they're still not doing it, by the way. They're still not doing it. They're still not doing it.
For the people in the back, do YouTube.
Yeah, they're still not doing it. Yeah. Keep going.
But yeah, I literally started in January 2021. Didn't have the budget, right? Because I wasn't closing enough deals yet. But I was like, I'm just going to find somebody. And randomly through my rental company, there was a videographer who was on a styled shoot, and she was like just out of college. And she was willing to film and edit for me for $200 a video. I was like, sure, I will take you, and let's just learn together. Didn't have a clue what the heck we were doing. But I went through, I think there's a book, and it's like 100 questions to ask for first-time home buyers or something like that. And I just went through and answered all those questions on video format. So repurposing other people's content and kind of creating this guide series. Was it beautiful and curated and all this stuff? To me, no, it was horrible.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I'm just going to be consistent and like not give up for a year and see what happens. 2-3 months go by. I randomly get a text. Hey, we're here from San Francisco. We would like to go to an open house. Can you take us? And I was like, oh my God, let me call you. And they're like, yeah, we're visiting. 3 days later, we ran an offer, $1.5 million house in Nu'uanu, which is right in Honolulu. And then a month later, closed the biggest check I've ever gotten in my life. And I'm on a team, and I'll just say it was $25,000 is my check.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my Lanta, this is life-changing. And I literally put that money right back into my business because I knew this is taking off. Hired a proper editor and a videographer. So now I have that. That's part of my business expenses. I know it's worth the investment. We post once a week consistently. And now probably once or twice a month, I get someone who's just hot and ready. And it's important to note, YouTube is a specific intentional search, right? People who are on YouTube are looking for something versus TikTok, social media, and like Instagram, it's interruption. And a lot of the times we're annoying them. And they're like, wait, why is there another realtor in my feed? You know, like, unless you're looking for housing, why would you need that information? So the YouTube clients, no questions, like they are super fans. They're not even thinking about another realtor. Like they have binge watched your videos and they're ready to go. They just blind trust. And so it's been amazing to experience that versus the traditional, okay, we have another Zillow lead or we have a PPC lead we got to handle, and it's calling them 13 times. Like, yes, I'll do that and I'll crush business that way, but do I love it? No.
Yeah.
So I know for 2023, I just got to go harder on what's working.
Well, and the thing I wish more, and I have to be transparent. I've worked so hyper relational my entire career, well before YouTube. I as my good friend Chelsea Pites always says, we are BFB. We're before Facebook. Real estate practitioners. So I've built business quite differently, and it has definitely sustained me. But what I always tell realtors about YouTube, because we are dabbling in it and gonna get better at it, and because I'm gonna go binge watch you now, but is that it's really free. Yes, to your point, editing and proper copywriting and everything else is great, but you can also do it for free. You also, there's nothing that, it doesn't cost anything to post on the platform.
No. Yeah.
And to your point, people are searching every single day for you.
Yes.
And I love it because realtors always think, oh, well, someone else already dominates my area. No, they don't. No, they don't. I promise you they don't, because there's billions of videos on YouTube. No one dominates your area. This isn't like marketing postcards where you're guaranteed that the consumer is going to see every postcard that comes in the door. So if someone is doing 10 times more than you, they might dominate that area, but YouTube doesn't work the same way.
Nope.
You've got to search, and then you've got to be reliant on the algorithm to put you in front of the right people.
Like literally, you and I could create the same exact video, 5 reasons to move to Long Beach, and different audiences are going to connect with us in different ways. And that's awesome. That's so awesome, because we get our dream client, right? We don't want everybody, and that's okay.
That's okay. You know? So what kind of content are you creating on YouTube?
So a lot of it is community based. So like best things to do in the area, right? So like general, like toury guides ish, but then home tours. And then a lot of it is just talking head, where I'm just sitting in front of the camera and saying, hey, here's some tips of advice for you. Or if the market has changed a little bit, what are we going to do in the future, right? How do we prepare you for that? A lot of our clients is military relocation. So I do a lot of that, telling my PCS story and how I relate with people. I give briefings on base. So that's a lot of credibility there too. And just building the trust and keeping people updated.
And so weekly videos. Now, do you batch film them? Do you film them all at one time? Do you schedule a day in your schedule?
Yeah. So I think this might be a rare talent, but I'm able to do 4 in about 3 hours.
Okay.
And I just plan it out with my videographer. I'm like, we're going to do it on Monday. I just block out from 9 to 12. I don't even have like a real script. I just have bullet points and I kind of wing it. I don't know if that's the best way to do it.
Hey, it works for some people.
Yeah. And I can usually do it in one take and be done. And so we're doing walking, talking. We're definitely getting B-roll as we go. And then I just instruct the editors like, hey, we want to mash this up. And they do such a good job curating it to my style and my branding that I literally have to give them like one edit and that's it. So that's my content for the whole month. And then they batch that up into shorts and reels and stuff for me. So it's literally one day of intention, a little bit of check-ins, and then set it, forget it.
And it sounds like you're doing a great job with repurposing and spreading it out all over the place and using the shorts and the reels. Now, is that something that you're posting on your own? Do you have someone that does it for you?
I still post everything myself except for YouTube, actually. So I have an assistant and she actually uploads to YouTube, does the descriptions and all that. But if it's a social platform, TikTok, Instagram, I still like to do it because I'm really thoughtful about my captions. I want it to sound like my voice and be authentic. And then I usually post it with a story, right? I'm not just posting and ghosting. I'm engaging and having people go and redirect there. It also goes to my newsletters. I've got a weekly newsletter that's a little bit of like, this is the new video, but also community events to look forward to this weekend. And here's what you might have missed. Because we have a lot of clients in our database who are still on the mainland and planning a move here or retirement in the future or whatever. So it's just great to keep in touch that way.
Well, it's a really unique market because it's very much a second home market. Obviously, you do have residents of the islands, but you also have a ton of people who just come there as a second home. It's very similar. I have a good friend, Todd Nordstrom, in South Beach, Miami, and he's the same thing. He's got people that do live there year round, but he's also got an incredible amount of, snowbirds from, New York and Boston. And he's got a ton of international clients that come to Miami. And so it is, you almost are talking to 2 different audiences. You're talking to the audience that lives there and you're talking to the audience that doesn't live there. And that can be a little challenging. That's awesome. So you're also a mom and we talked a little bit about this mom work-life balance that everyone says is not achievable. I always like to say balancing because I don't think you're ever completely balanced. And sometimes you're out of balance, right? There's seasons where you're out of balance. So how has that kind of changed your business? How do you navigate it?
Yeah, totally. So again, to set the scene, I now have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
And my husband, all up until the last couple of months, he was stay at home and did our businesses with me, right? And so he wasn't leaving the house to go work, but he just started a W-2. So it's been a big shift in our life to try to figure out this new schedule. But before I was a realtor, again, working from home, I had my different businesses, but we could really do the nap time and crush it. Like we just knew we would time block accordingly.
Love that. It's your power hour. It's your power hour. Yeah.
Everything important was happening in those 3 to 4 hours. And then the rest of the time we were shift parenting. But I will say then 2020 hit, right? So I started the real estate business. My second baby came along and it was a big adjustment. But I also made this like internal sacrifice of like, I'm starting a new career. I'm willing to sacrifice the time with my baby so that I can set this off right for later reward, right? But the mom guilt was so real and so hard. And for the first, I think it was like, I had 4 in escrow at one time and I was like, what am I doing? And I was just like an emotional mess.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find good female role models who've had small children that were also successful, at least talking about it. Like, yes, the kids existed on social media, but nobody was sharing the struggle behind it. So I felt so alone. I was so lonely and just felt like it's impossible. There's no way to do it. It's either I'm all mommy or I'm all business because my clients are suffering.
Yeah.
But it was hiring the assistant and like giving that empowerment to delegate off. That was huge. And then now it's gone through business coaching and getting a lot of professional help to say, you can do it all. We just need a little bit of structure and systems.
Yeah.
And the circle of network to know you're not alone, because it can be super, super lonely. But it's absolutely possible to crush it and to be a top producer in your company and still have small ones, right?
Yeah. 1,000%.
Expectation. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone and anyone listening has heard me say a million times that, you know, if it's not on your calendar, it's not a priority. And that includes your children. And you can do it as long as you prioritize that your kids and their activities and things that are important to them and you as a family go on your calendar and you protect those times. And if you protect those times, you know, for instance, when my kids were small, I would be able to go on the field trip midweek, but that my kids also knew that meant Saturday, when there's nothing going on in the family, I am going to be working probably all day. I'm just a different mommy. I'm a mommy that works sometimes on the weekends, but guess what? I get to go on the field trip with you on Tuesday afternoon and most of the mommies don't, right? So it's like, well, you're sitting at home playing with your toys. I'm going to be working and I'm going to get someone to take care of you or your father, or, you know, my husband wasn't in the business when my kids were super tiny, but fast forward, now I've got these kids who never felt abandoned, always knew that they were prioritized, right? And we crushed it in real estate, but it's because we always made them a priority. We always protected that time, but they also understood. And I think that kids that grow up like your kids are going to, and my kids did, with independent contractor parents, they don't know any different. Right. And so when people are like, I can't believe you do this business and it's so time consuming and you're gone all the time, I'm like, you have to understand, I'm gone all the time now because I do a lot of other things in the industry, but my kids are grown. I would not have been the volunteer leader I am now and done the things I'm doing now when my kids were 7 and 2. I would have missed things. I would have missed important events, and that wouldn't have been okay with me. Right. So it's also, I think, sometimes about the seasons of life that you're in. You know, and the busier that the busier your kids get, the busier you're going to get, because you're going to have to balance all of that. But then there's the mantra of, and I'm sure you've seen this already, is you can make a lot of money in real estate utilizing your kids' activities. Like, I made a ton of money sitting in a dance studio lobby and sitting in the bleachers of a baseball field. A lot of freaking money, right? It's about making your trip work for you while you're there, right? You don't feel guilty about something that you're doing when you're working and you're, you know, seeing your children, you know, in their activities at the same time.
Yeah, no, it is so important to just create that system and that support too, so that you can be there and not have to go on showings. And I can just say to my team, hey, Marina's got to be on mommy duty, but my team's going to do showings for me, you know?
Yeah.
Or and your clients will respect you for that.
They do. And that's the thing. I think that else I want everyone to know is just protecting that time is so important. So when someone does call you, you know, and ask you to see a house Saturday at 11 a.m., but your child has a soccer game, you say, I'm so sorry, I have an appointment at that time, but I can meet you at 9:30 or I can meet you at 2. What works for you? And people will respect that. They will, and you don't have to apologize, and you don't have to tell them where you are. And you also don't have to apologize for showing up on social media at the soccer game. As I've always said, if a client won't work with me because I'm prioritizing my kids, you know, it's not like I'm abandoning them as a client. I'm not saying, oh, I can see you next week. I'm just asking you for a different time during the day. Clients will absolutely respect you for that. So
yes,
totally
agree.
No,
it's so good. Yeah.
So you're so young. You've been doing this such a short period of time, and you're extremely, I can tell you from a 20-year vet, you're extremely successful, very impressive. So what would you say like your top 3 things are that you feel like really have made you the realtor you are right now?
As cheesy as it is, it's treating your business like a business. So I mentor about 6 agents right now and love them to death, right? But your voice can say one thing and your actions do another. And so it's just showing up and actually doing the work. The non-sexy work, right? That's what drives the income. And just getting it done in a timely manner. And so part of being a mom, like this is a plus of a mom, is you figure out how to prioritize really quick. So if I know I got to pick up the kids at 2, I only have from 8 to 2 to get my shit done. And then I got to be off duty. And so it really just forces you to get super clear with what's most important. And if you don't have kids yet, or you don't have that accountability, it can be really, really hard because you're just kind of dropped in the middle of the ocean. Like, yes, we tell you what to do, but it's ultimately up to you. And for our company, we're virtual. We work from home. And so that's also a blessing and a curse, you know? And so really it's just being consistent. That's number one, is the number one driver. Number 2 is definitely leveraging social media and the audience that it provides. If you're not on social media, you don't exist nowadays. Even for referral partners, for the agents that are listening, when I'm like, I need an agent in Georgia. I'm going to go to social media. First, I'm going to look within my company, but if I can't find anyone, I'm going to go outside that. You better be online. I better be able to stalk you.
Absolutely. Oh, girl.
I need some social proof that you're a real
yes.
producer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So good. What's
And then
number
the
3?
number 3 thing I think is I tapped in with the right people. So when I started, I was interviewing about 8 different companies, did a lot of research and a lot of stalker mode when I was doing my pre-licensing course, stumbled across my group on a podcast actually, and was like, this is interesting. But now looking back and having met with so many people who come from different places, it's just finding the people who actually say what they're going to do. A lot of different mentors and coaches and whatever, they're going to promise you the world, but where's the follow through? And so I've seen the devastating effects and the waste of time and effort that is on other people's behalf. I'm so grateful I did do my due diligence and found the right group to work with. For sure, it's knowing your circle and the power of that.
I don't think I can. I mean, that's like all 3 of those are like mic drop moments. I'm going to go back to the first thing you said. I cannot tell you how passionate I am right now. And obviously been doing this 20 years. The writing's on the wall. Really, really, really good agents that were good at what they do. They take great care of the clients, know the contracts inside and out, have great customer service, are not going to survive 2023 and 2024 if they don't wake up and become a great business owner.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how incredibly refreshing it is that a newer agent understands that, because I will be really transparent. I did not figure that out until about year 10, to be honest. I dabbled and screwed around and was just really good at what I did and knew a lot of people and really good at building relationships. But as far as like actually having a business, treating it like a business and understanding that, no, you don't need to go to Target at 3:00 in the afternoon just because you can. Target can wait until you pick up the kids and take them like a normal mom would. Right. So that's always my favorite story to tell, is how I would just prioritize shopping during the day over working.
Gosh, yeah.
It's like, would a business owner do this?
Yeah. I can, because I can.
Exactly.
One note I feel like you could create a whole different podcast on is the finances of an agent, right?
Yeah.
And so many times we try to outperform our mistakes and our oversights and like, oh, whoops, I forgot to save for taxes, so I'll just do 2 more closings.
Yeah.
Like, hello, wake up.
Fix
like
the problem.
Be ahead, be proactive.
Yes.
And like, geez.
Totally. The second thing you said was social media. And I cannot tell you how much I scream and echo that and tell people, especially because of how we work relationally, specifically, social media is where your database is. It's where your clients are. It's where your current clients are. It's where your future clients are. And my favorite thing to say is, and I'm sure you agree with this, is if you are not showing up on social media, your clients are hearing from someone else. Guaranteed. They are hearing from another realtor. And sometimes realtors look at me sideways. And I always say this, listen, I live in Long Beach, California. If my best client has been one of my top clients forever, her name's Heather, she shares all the things I say on social media. If I go on stories right now in 5 minutes and do a really good kind of answering the myths and questions about this market we're in and interest rates and everything else, she will share that story. And guess what? Every single one of her friends in Long Beach is hearing that story.
So good.
And their realtors are not in their feed, but I am through Heather. And so it's like your clients are guaranteed they're hearing from some kind of real estate information on social. The question is it you? And are they going to trust the other realtor that they hear from all the time? Or are they going to trust their own, right? Or are they going to forget about you? So love that. And what did you say number 3 was? I had a comment for that too, and I've already
finding the right circle. So
finding the right circle. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And you also mentioned other realtors. You mentioned like having the right network. So incredibly key, right? Your culture and the energy within the group or team or brokerage that you belong to. This is not the market right now to settle and be unhappy and not get what you need. If you're not getting the training, if you're not getting the support, if you're not getting the energy, if you're not getting the sales skills, the licensing issues, the legal, all of that, like there's so many great brokerages out there and teams out there, like go find one.
Yes. You don't have to stay at the same one for a year. You can bounce after a month if you're terrified and you're like, this is not what I signed up for. Like, leave.
1,000%. And then the other thing I would say to that, like being a broker, is make sure that they don't always think the grass is greener on the other side, and question yourself is, am I taking advantage of all the opportunities and things that are already here before I decide they're not going to work, right?
Are you plugging in and actually chasing the help that you need?
Yes. Oh my gosh. You killed your first podcast, FYI. And I already have so many other things I want to follow up with you on, and things that we could go deeper on. And we're definitely going to do more of this. But before we wrap up, where is the best place for everyone to find you that now wants to go social stalk you?
Yeah. So I would say Instagram's probably number one still. So it's just my name, Marina T Tolentino _ because someone else had my name. But there's 2 T's in the middle. And then YouTube, go watch my YouTube videos. It's just my name, Marina Tolentino. It's a great way to get a reference point of if you're going to start videos, like, hey, these are the ones that are working. And don't be so caught up on subscriber count. That's a huge thing, right? I got my first deal when I probably had like 50 subscribers. I only have like 340 now. And to close 7 million in volume is like amazing, you know, don't get caught up on the comparison.
Yeah. And now, as far as Hawaii's, obviously you're on Oahu and the entire island.
Yep. I service the whole island. Outer islands, I've got referral partners on all of those. One of my team members on Big Island. So we got you covered anywhere in Hawaii.
Oh, I love that. Well, you have been just an absolute breath of fresh air. Like, we got connected in an organic way, and I'm so grateful for it, because you have just given so many beautiful nuggets and information. I know everyone's going to be so excited and probably listen to this again, as I will, to take amazing notes. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please, as always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, tell Marina how much you loved her, find all her contact information in the show notes. It will be there for you. This will also be on YouTube. It will be in the show notes as well. And until next time, friends, we will see you again very soon. Bye for now.
Bye.